know that feeling, right? Just completely mentally overloaded. It's like there are 100 different TVs on in your head all at once, and you just can't find the remote. It's a super common feeling. But what if there was a way to just tune out the static? This endless stream of mental chatter, we're judging ourselves, we're forming opinions, getting totally lost in our emotions, replaying the past, worrying about the future. Honestly, it's exhausting, and it can feel impossible to find even a moment of peace, let alone make a clear-headed choice. So instead of trying to fight or untangle all that inner noise, we're going to try something a bit radical. We're going to shift our focus completely away from the noise and onto potential actions. This is the fundamental switch right here. See, our normal instinct, our common urge, is to try and fix every single thought, every feeling. We want to figure it all out. But this new approach asks us to just set that urge aside. Instead, we become observers, just watching for the moment our mind proposes an action. Like, I should probably send that email, or maybe I should go have that conversation. And to be really clear, this is not about ignoring your thoughts or feelings. Not at all. You still see them, you acknowledge them, you just start to treat them as, well, secondary noise. Your new primary job is to be a detective, patiently waiting to spot an action as it bubbles up to the surface.
So, how do you actually do this? How does it work in practice? Well, it all boils down to asking a super simple, direct question to your own inner guide. It's a practical inquiry.
The process itself is just a simple flow. First, you just notice a proposed action pop into your head. Then, and this part is absolutely key, you do your best to set aside your own judgments about it, your own desires. Just hold it neutrally for a second. And from that neutral space, you ask inside, is this the right thing to do? And then you just listen. You sense for a simple yay or a nay. Now, a really important heads up here. You might not get a clear physical yes or no feeling right away. You might not ever, and that's totally okay. The real power here isn't just in getting an answer, it's in the act of asking. Every single time you do this, and you strengthen your connection to that deeper wisdom. As you practice this, you start to build a really crucial skill, learning to tell the difference between the two very different voices that can drive our actions. One is the ego, and the other, we can call it the truth impulse. See, actions that spring from the ego are almost always fueled by these really strong reactive states. So when you feel an urge to act, and it's coming from a place of intense fear or anger or a desperate desire, that's a pretty good sign that it's an ego-driven action. And when you put these two side by side, the contrast is just stark. An ego-driven action often feels like enslavement, doesn't it? It's a compulsion you feel like you have to follow, and it keeps you totally hooked on your self-image. But a truth-guided action, that feels like alignment, like wisdom. It's a feeling of rightness. Emotions are met with understanding, and they can just pass right through you. You're not attached to the outcome, you're just responding from a true place.
Look, this is a skill, and just like any skill, there's a learning curve. It's not about being perfect on day one, it's really just about recognizing where you are on the path and then taking that next small step.
It's the discipline to not take an action unless you get that clear inner yes. It's the ultimate trust in your inner guidance over any fleeting impulse. Ultimately, this whole practice reframes where we even find joy. It suggests that the endless chase to satisfy our every desire is a game we just can't win. The deeper, more real fulfillment comes from shifting our goal, from just getting what we want to aligning with something bigger,
and becoming an instrument for what feels true.
This is not about suppressing thoughts and emotions, but making the focus of your attention the desire to catch any proposed actions so that you can ask the inner guide for a yes or no. The ego may resist the idea of an inner guide, saying this is just some new age idea, or it may say it takes someone with different skills to be able to sense this. But this is a very soft practice in that we just do our best. We're just noticing how often we act on automatic, based on expectations, moral codes, fears and desires. And if there's just a tiny % chance that we could act from something higher than that, some knowledge beyond us that knows what is the best action, we're willing to ask. So as you wait for the pine cone, you're just focusing on the breath or some other sensation. But if a proposed action comes to mind, like something to do after you leave this room, or desire to take a sip of water if you have that nearby, you can ask, should I do this action? But sometimes when I have an action that I know is from ego, it's trying to impress someone, or make a connection with them, or defend my point of view, or present myself a certain way that's favorable, then I ask with the intention that if I do not get an impulse, since I know that's an ego action, I'm just not going to do it. When I say no to the ego, there is a sense of joy and a deeper insight about something that happens. So it's a practice that I value. So if the mind is wandering, you just bring it right back to the breath or the sensation. Unless that happens to be a plan for proposed action, then you ask the inner guide. So since we're Westerners, often we want a goal or a prize for doing something. And the prize for the transcendental meditations, the attempts to be the witness, is the alleviation of suffering. And this practice does offer the same, but it's a different flavor because you're in the body, you take on the identity, you keep it simple, your name, your mother's name, and where you're from, nothing more. But that identity is necessary in this practice because you need to have it to surrender. If you're no self, you can't surrender because there's nothing to do the surrendering. So while no self may be true, not this may be true, who am I may be true, this guru doesn't recommend any of that because that's attempting to not surrender. So we take on the identity, and that is what bows or bends to the inner guide. And so the prize that she's suggesting happens is that if one practices this for a while and gets into a deep state, then you're not even asking for the impulse, it's coming. Every single action is just being guided. Your action, action, action. Instead of being the servant to the ego, you're the servant to what she calls the soul, or the truth, or love. And that is what brings the joy, peace, and love without conditions, because it's not based on actions. Even if what you pursue doesn't come to you, you fail, you still have joy because you weren't attached to getting it. Joy is coming from being an instrument of this divine entity inside. And so the name for what she calls the state is not awakening, she calls it self-realization. She doesn't describe it very much, but it is a kind of a in servitude to the inner guide or the soul, the truth. You kind of get absorbed by it. It's a kind of a death in a way. You're still alive, you still have emotions, you still feel connection, you still may have desires, but your actions, so her it's all about action. They're driven by this higher state, higher self. The Western mind, this practice may feel too simple, but all we're doing, if we want to play along, is focus on the breath or another sensation. Thoughts, emotions come, go back to that, unless it is a proposed action for the future or the present. Can't do anything about the past. It's a proposed action for the present or the future, like when you go home, or tomorrow, or next year, and asking to get a yes or no impulse to tell you whether that action is something you should do. And don't ask a question that you're not willing to get a no on. It's okay to say, I can't accept a no on that. I have an obligation, or I must do that. It's okay. This is not Puritanism. The U.S. Constitution talks about the pursuit of happiness, and that's often our formula. What is going to make me happy? What do I need to do? How do I need to present myself? What do I need to change or maintain so that I can be happy? We prioritize our happiness, or the happiness of others, because that makes us happy. That's fine. This practice is totally different. If we follow the truth impulse, we will be happy, but it may lead us to do things that are unpleasant. The happiness isn't coming from the action or the consequences or the fruit of our labor, not from having an image, not having a certain reaction from another person, not sensations that we enjoy, not entertainment, not a boost in self-esteem. Not a boost in self-esteem. It is from no longer needing to figure it out. And even if we never get the truth impulse, the more we appreciate what it would be like to be guided by something inside that we trust, to have a higher level of good, beauty, and truth, that may lead us to not being so enslaved by the ego. We might even say that that's why we're here, is to increase our receptivity and our vulnerability and our surrender and humility. This practice, even if we never get an impulse, is doing that. So in our final 2 minutes, really see and invite the ego to make a suggestion of something that you want to do. And if it's something that you are okay, you want to do it, but you're okay with a no, and you're okay with, if I get no signal, I will still not do it. That could be so instrumental in weakening the control of the ego. So you pick something like chocolate cake or something like that. You're like, oh, I really like a chocolate cake, but if I don't get a truth impulse, I'll skip it tonight.